What's up, everyone? This is Daily Piranhas. This is the Daily Effect, and you know why I'm here. We're here to talk about Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury. What an amazing event! Congratulations to Saudi Arabia for putting on a memorable event. You know, Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury, very intriguing. When I done my prediction video, I said Tommy Fury would win based off that he knows the fundamentals of boxing better than Jake Paul, and that was the biggest difference. It's not that I think Tommy Fury is the world's best prospect, because I don't rate Tommy Fury highly in that regard, but he's good enough with the basic boxing fundamentals and the knowledge that he's gained from the years of doing boxing. He has that in his locker to throw, like I said in my prediction, the jab, the 1-2, the simple shots that will beat Jake Paul, that doesn't have the basic fundamentals. Jake Paul looked nervous going into this fight, with the ring walk. I think it dawned on him that, I'm going in against a pro boxer, I could really get hurt here. You could see it in the way he was breathing, the way he was acting. But I thought as he got into the fight, he showed he was game, and he was pushing the fight, and he showed he got a good chin and a good heart. So he's got a good base to work with. Tommy Fury, on the other hand, fair play to him, man. He was crying at the end of the fight, and he ain't crying because he beat Jake Paul. He's crying because the years of people say, you ain't gonna beat Jake Paul, you're scared of Jake Paul, when are you gonna fight Jake Paul? The weight on his shoulders of being a Fury, and they saying they're gonna disown him, and his brother's the WBC heavyweight champion of the world, and he's only 23 years of age. So to carry all that weight and then to go into a ring where the whole world is watching and expecting you to beat Jake Paul because he's effectively a YouTuber, that's a lot of weight. It doesn't matter who you are, those lights and cameras can do weird things to your mind and to your body when you step into that ring. And so he actually handled it quite well. I think Jake Paul, in my eyes, he needs to go back to the gym and work on the small details of boxing. For the life of me, don't quote me on how many years he's done boxing, 5 years or whatever, how he doesn't know how the basic fundamental of boxing, like a jab, how to throw a simple 1-2, the right footwork, the right balance, the right head movement, the art of manipulation, the art of feinting. I don't understand after 5 years, as I said, don't quote me on the number of years, why he doesn't know how to do those simple things, because that is vital in boxing. They're the first things you get taught when you go into a boxing gym. So it's either he's got coaches that are just yes men, or Jake Paul's not listening to instructions and not carrying out the information he's getting and executing it properly. Because I do not understand how he doesn't know how to do those things. He's done well getting up to this point, as in promoting wise. He's picked the right fights to learn the trade, but you can get away with that against an old MMA fighter, or average MMA fighters or basketball players. You can get away with that, but you can't get away with it against someone that knows the basic fundamentals of boxing, because that's all you need against Jake Paul, is know how to use a jab, how to throw a 1-2, how to get out the way, how to manipulate, etc., etc. And what was smart about Tommy Fury, I said in my prediction, if Tommy Fury goes out all guns blazing trying to make it a war, then that will play into Jake Paul's hands, because Jake Paul doesn't know the fundamentals of boxing yet. He's more of a street fighter. He doesn't know the intelligent side of boxing. And I thought Tommy Fury started off a bit like that, because he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. He needs to show and win it in devastating fashion. But for me, it wasn't about that. For me, I thought if he just relaxed and just boxed behind the simple, fundamentals, that he would win with ease. You know what I mean? And probably get the knockout later. Obviously, it didn't come. But he started to do that after the first round. He thought to him, they changed it up, and they were like, "What? Why are you they must have told him in the corner, why are you going after him like that? Just calm down, relax. You're gonna win. Just relax, get behind your jab, get behind your simple shots. And that's what you started to see, because from the second round on, he started to switch it. If you saw, he switched it and it started to go on the back foot and not dancing around all the time, but just creeping backwards and letting Jake Paul come to him. And because Jake Paul don't know how to set up his punches properly, and doesn't know how to work behind the jab or behind feints, or know how to creep his feet forward to be in the right place, then someone with the knowledge and the basic fundamentals that Tommy Fury has, he's going to see Jake Paul's shots from a mile away. And that's what you saw, and that's why it was easy. Yes, he got the knockdown, but that was more Tommy Fury's fault, because he was square on. His weight came forward and he was square on. And when you do that, any shot, even if it's not a hard shot, it would send you down to the canvas. But other than that, he cruised that fight and he won that fight. I probably gave Jake Paul probably 2 rounds, maybe 3 rounds, because if you count the knockdown, give him 3 rounds if I'm being nice. But it was an easy fight. Just based on that, I don't rate Tommy Fury highly. I don't think he's going to be a world champion unless he gets given a world title. But he's good enough to beat someone like Jake Paul that don't have the fundamentals. So my advice would be to Jake Paul that he needs to get back in the gym and work on the small details, the intelligence, the sweet science that goes into boxing. Boxing ain't street fighting. It's not as simple as going in there just throwing your punches. You got to learn about footwork, timing, distance, knowing where your feet should be, knowing when to punch and not to punch, knowing when to keep your hands up and not to keep your hands up. Jabs, there's so many ways to throw a jab. The manipulation of the jab, the feints behind the jab, the touch jab, the hard jabs, the step jabs. Jabs that come from your hip, jabs that come from mid-range, jabs that come from a high guard. He hasn't been taught all that, or he's just not listening to his coaches and doing those things. Because I'm telling you now, if Jake Paul learns how to do those things, he will actually be a decent boxer. I ain't gonna lie. He's done well with promoting himself. He's done well to get to the point where he can call himself a pro boxer now, because, he's got a license, etc. But he needs to learn the small details of boxing, and he will actually be quite decent, because he showed heart in there. He showed grit and desire, you know what I mean? And the willingness to fight. So imagine if he had the intelligence behind him. Imagine what he would be like, you know what I mean? He actually can get good if he buckles down and goes back to the gym and works on those small details. I've got some notes here to get through because I didn't want to miss a thing. I was worried it was going to be a draw because of the knockdown. I was worried, even though I thought Tommy Fury clearly won. I was worried when that knockdown came. I was like, oh, here we go. It's going to be a draw so they can set up a rematch. But I'm glad the result went the way it went, because Tommy Fury clearly won and boxed his head off. I mean, Tommy Fury, you're going to see Jake Paul's punches if you're just trying to look for the knockout. Anyone knows in boxing, yeah, that if you're in against an opponent that's trying to knock you out, they're the easiest opponents to fight, because you can see them winding up the shots. You can see them from a mile away, and that's what made it easy for Tommy Fury, just staying on that back foot, letting Jake Paul come to him. As I said, let him come, let him fall over his front foot, because he doesn't know how to set up shots properly. Yeah, let him fall over that front foot, so then Tommy Fury can counter him off the back foot. And I said, if Tommy Fury keeps it simple, don't make it a war, behind that jab, behind a simple 1-2, uppercuts when he comes in, because Jake Paul puts his head low when he comes in, so uppercuts, little body shots here and there, tie him up here and there, and then it'd be a done deal and an easy fight. The referee I didn't like. He was a joke. I don't know why he was deducting points, because in professional boxing, you have to keep doing it over and over and over and over before the referee starts deducting points. What now for both fighters? Well, obviously you've got the rematch clause, and Jake Paul's going to exercise that. I think that's a good move, because they're both going to make double, triple the money in a rematch, because Tommy Fury won clearly, but he didn't make a fool out of Jake Paul. You know what I mean? Jake Paul can hold his head up high, so he didn't make a fool out of Jake Paul. He won clearly, but it's not like he battered Jake Paul. You know what I mean? So I think a rematch will be interesting, and if Jake Paul buckles down in the gym and works on those small details and those fundamentals, I think it could be a closer fight. Although I think Tommy Fury, now that weight's off his shoulders, now he's beaten Jake Paul, you know, I think Tommy Fury's going to go in there a little bit more relaxed, you know, and that could be dangerous for Jake Paul. You could see Tommy Fury knocking Jake Paul out next time, just because that weight, trust me, at 23 years of age with all that weight, you know, and the 2 years of the back and forward and people thinking he's scared and he's gonna lose and all this, and then his family on his case. Now that's all off him. He can go in there and be himself and fight with freedom. And I could see Tommy Fury making it easier for himself the next fight and beating Jake Paul in a devastating fashion. I think KSI will have to wait, obviously, because them two are gonna do the fight. For me, KSI, great fighter, he's learning all the time, but now he needs to test those skills and, you know, that knowledge that he's gaining against a creditable opponent that's going to give him some rounds. You know, I think that's what everyone wants to see now, someone that's going to, you know, test him a bit and give him some rounds, and then that will help him in the fights against Jake Paul or Tommy Fury, because obviously he'll probably fight the winner, right? So he needs someone creditable. You know, he can't fight, you know, Pineda, you know, a Temper, a Swarms. He needs a proper fighter, you know, that's gonna, you know, give him some rounds and give him some lessons, you know, and that will actually make KSI look better, because when you fight someone better and the knowledge that he's gaining in the gym with his coaches, then, you know, it will make his performance will be better, in my opinion. In my opinion, Tommy Fury doesn't need to be a professional boxer anymore. As I said, I don't think he'd be a world champion. This was his world title fight, the Jake Paul fight. You know, if you talk about the magnitude of the event, look at the event. The whole world was watching it. He's made himself a superstar now because he's the first man to beat Jake Paul. So globally he's recognized. He's probably built a fan base now over in America for beating Jake Paul. So why does he need to go back to fighting proper professional boxers? He doesn't need to. He's a made man, and he's going to be even more made man when he has the rematch with Jake Paul. And if he beats Jake Paul, then there's other fights out there for him, like against KSI, Logan Paul. So he doesn't need to go back to professional boxing. There's no need. And I think his family knows that as well. And that's why they're invested in all this stuff with Tommy Fury. They're invested in this because he's made this his own now. You know what I mean? This was his world title fight. So I don't see him going in against like proper professional boxers anytime soon. Jake Paul, he needs to go back to the drawing board, and yeah, that's my advice, man. He probably will never ever see this video, but my advice to Jake Paul is to work on the small details of boxing. And if he doesn't watch boxing, study boxing, because by studying it you pick up so much. But he needs to learn the footwork properly, the jabbing, the jabs, the manipulations of the jabs. He needs to know how to feint, how to level change, how to hold his body better, how to set up his shots behind the jab, behind manipulation. He needs to learn all these small little details, and they're not big things to learn. They're not hard things to learn, but it's just it needs to be done every day. It needs to be drilled every day. It can't be said 1 or 2 times and then he's moving on to 100 different things. Or you can't be doing pad work just all the time where you just throwing punches and doing what you want just to look good for cameras or whatever. These coaches need to drill this stuff. They probably have. As I said, I'm not pointing fingers. It's either Jake is not listening or his coaches are not training him properly. and being more like yes men because obviously of who he is. So that's my advice. A great event. Both Jake Paul can hold his chin up high. Tommy Fury can definitely hold his chin up high. 23 years of age, having all that weight on his shoulders, and he pulled it out the bag. And I think next time, if it was to happen, it'd be much more easier for Tommy Fury. But it could be closer if Jake Paul gets his act together with the small details, the sweet science of the sport, and drills all the stuff that I was saying on a daily basis. I'm Daily Peralez, and I'll catch you soon.